Hi, it's Achim from InnerSpace Explorers. Sorry, it's been a while. It's a bit of a busy time and I wasn't able to do as much as I wanted to. And at the same time, I'm working on this audiobook thing for my patrons. So there's actually videos uploaded, but not on the official channel. So today we want to talk about minimum gas and gas planning, recreational divers, and others call it rock bottom, whatever. So the important part here is to understand that this is a concept, that's a different way of thinking when it comes to dive planning. So generally what people do is they say, okay, I want to do this dive and obviously I need some sort of reserve for an emergency, for a worst case scenario. And what they do is they say, it really depends on the instructor, on the agency, on the diver himself. So they say, okay, I reserve 50 bars, I reserve 1/3, I reserve, I say I don't want to leave the water with less than 30 bars. You hear all kind of things. The problem with all of that is that you plan for your dive, and that's the part that you can influence, where you have control, and you reserve a certain amount that is not really defined for a scenario that you do not know yet. So we thought that it would be smarter to plan for the worst case scenario. So I know 100% if the worst case scenario happens, I have enough gas for that, and then take the rest and use it for my dive. So if that is not the amount that I actually need for a certain dive time, for example, I can always call the dive before I reach that time limit because I'm in control. And if it's more gas, I can probably extend it if it's still within my decompression limit if we talk recreational diving. So I'm in control of that and I can always adjust to what is there. In an emergency, I can't do that. The emergency dictates what I have to do. And if I already have an emergency, like for example, one person of the team is out of gas, I obviously don't want to add more problems by making shortcuts on my ascent, for example. So I hope this idea makes sense for you. And I actually want to show you an example, which is a 30-meter dive for 20 minutes. And I would like to run you through the calculation so you understand a little bit better what the thinking behind is. And yeah, let me show you the numbers and also that this is a two-phase planning. So first of all, you think about the worst case scenario. So one of the divers is completely out of gas at the maximum depth of that time. When in the dive doesn't make any difference, which is great from the planning side. And how you would do an ascent, at least based on our opinion. And then you know how much gas you have to spare for this emergency, which you then would call your turning point, rock bottom, minimum gas, whatever name you want to give that concept. And then at the second step, you look at, okay, what's left for the actual dive, and then make a little calculation to see, okay, is that still reasonable or not? Because that's what you want to do in front of the dive. You want to figure out, okay, is that tank size with that amount of pressure enough for that dive? Does it even make sense? Because if I calculate, okay, that only gives me 5 minutes of dive time, then obviously I take a bigger tank. Or, okay, this is enough, this is fully sufficient for the dive, and I can do it. So let's have a look at the numbers. So the plan is 30 meters for 20 minutes. That's no deco, and as a safety margin, we do it with 32% nitrox. So we are at 30 meters and we experience this problem. So we calculate 1 minute to solve the problem. And then we start our ascent. And we ascend to 15 meters, which is half of our depth. And for this ascent, we take an ascent rate of 10 meters per minute. So that results in 1.5 minutes, which we will round up to 2 minutes. So Then we go up to 9 meters, and there we slow down to 3 meters per minute. So that means we have another 2 minutes. And then we do ICE minimum deco, which is 1 at 9, 2 at 6, and 3 at 3 meters. So that gives us a total ascent time of 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, 11 minutes. So now we say we have an average AMV of 20 liters per minute. So now there's stress because one person's out of gas, which means we assume that there's a raised AMV, so we say 30 liters per minute. Times 2, because it's 2 divers, that's 60 liters per minute. So our average depth for this ascent is 15 meters, which is 2.5 bars. So we have 11 minutes times 2.5 bars times 60 liters per minute is 1,650 liters that I need for the ascent. So, if I say, so now I know that is my turnaround pressure, minimum gas, rock bottom, whatever you want to call that. So let's say I dive a 15 liter tank, so I divide that by the volume, 15 liters. So that means I have 110 bars. Good. So I know my turnaround pressure, my minimum gas is 110 bars in a 15 liter tank. So now, as I said before, the opposite idea, I wanted to do a 30 meter dive for 20 minutes. So now it's a good time to check if that is possible. So I have 90 bars roughly left. So normally these tanks are filled 220, 230, something like that. But obviously you don't want to ascend with an empty tank. So you can obviously calculate with the total amount. But I would say we do just, let's take 100 bars just to have a nice round number. So 100 bars times 15 means we have 1,500 liters left. So 1,500 divided by 4, divided by an average AMV. I mean, in reality, I never use 20 liters, so it's up to you what you want to calculate with. So I would calculate with 15 because that's more realistic. So we have 1,500 divided by 15 divided by 4, and that gives us 25 minutes. So 25 minutes, we wanted to do 20 minutes. So obviously this dive is completely possible with a 15 liter tank. So if you would calculate the same thing with a 12 liter tank, you would actually realize, whoop, that doesn't work. So we can actually make that calculation. We said we have 1,650 liters as rock bottom or minimum gas. So we divide it by 12. So that is 1,650 divided by 12. That's 137.5. So that's 140 bars. That would leave us with 60, 70 bars left. So let's say we do 70 bars times 12. is 840 liters divided by, we said, 4 and divided by 15. So that gives us 14 minutes. So this means, of course, you can still do that dive with a 12-liter tank, but obviously you don't make it to the 20-minute mark. So after 14 minutes, at least based on the calculation, so in that time frame, you probably hit the 140 bars, and that means you have to ascend. So if your RMV is lower than 15, you probably make it to the 20 minutes. If it's a bit higher, you probably have to cancel the dive early. So I would go for the 15-liter tank because we saw that this shouldn't be any problem. All right. I hope that gave you a little bit of an idea of how we look at these things and what's the reason behind the way of dive planning that we do. If you have any questions, comments, please put them in the comment section. If you want to discuss a little bit more in detail with me, then please check out the Patreon site. That's normally where I post a little bit more stuff and where I answer all the questions. Other than that, stay safe and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.